Hello, this is Justin with Supboard Guide, and today we're going to be reviewing the Blackfin Model X and the Blackfin Model XL. We're switching it up a little bit this year, and we're actually going to review both boards at the same time as comparing the boards. We get a lot of questions of, should I get the Blackfin Model X, should I get the XL? And that's what we're going to dive into today. Go over everything that comes with the kit. It's one thing that we do really like about iRocker. Every one of their boards comes with everything you need to get out on the water, and everything is a really nice quality accessory. So starting out with the bag, the Blackfin bag is a step up from the iRocker bag, a little bit thicker materials, a little bit larger, which makes sense because the boards are a little bit larger. Again, even though the boards are large, the backpack fits everything really nice. I really like this front pouch. You can put the pump in there, right? Which keeps it separate from the main compartment. You've got the bungees here, you've got side bungees, you've got a little side pouch here. You've got a little bungee or a little net area up here. In the back, you have another zippered pouch, which is where I like to keep the fins. And just in general, you can just pack a lot of stuff in here. As far as how it feels when you're carrying it around, it's nice and comfortable. A little bit more padded than the iRocker lineup, and just feels really good. A little bit heavier because you do have more. Get that there. So as you can see, it fits well. It does ride a little bit low here, so if you're on like a long hike, that might start to bug you just a little bit. But you can see it fits really nice. I can cinch up the hip straps and carry most of the weight there. Just a really good quality backpack all the way around. And I also like, if you see the wheels, that makes it to where honestly 95+% of what you're doing is actually rolling it on the ground. So taking it to and from your car, your truck, loading it up, you can do that. And then they have these nice handles here. And on the bottom, that handle is actually nicer than you realize, because then you can just grab it here and kind of, you know, put it in your car or your truck. So really nice bag. Okay, so moving on, just like last year, they come with a dual chamber triple action pump. And what that means is you have two chambers that can blow air both when you pull up and when you push down, right? If you'll do that for the first little bit until it starts to get a little hard, then you'll change it to setting 2, which means when you're pulling up, air is not going in, so it's easy to pull up. Only when you're pushing down does air go in from both chambers, so you still get a nice volume push into the board. And when it gets really hard, setting 3. So it turns into a single chamber, single action pump. So on the upstroke, no air is going in, so really easy to pull up, and then just downstroke to blow the air in. Side note, if you are a smaller person and you have a hard time with these pumps, you can actually get a second person, kind of stand like this, and it makes it super easy. Or you can do, and this goes for everybody, our top recommendation, get the iRocker electric pump. It's our favorite electric pump right now on the market. It's a really good price and saves you a lot of sweat. So unless you really want to work on those biceps, get the electric pump. You also get the standard repair kit with the Blackfin. This comes with the valve wrench, which is nice. Keep it in case that does come loose. Doesn't come loose very often, but just keep it just in case. And then you do have a couple patches. Oh, if I can get them out. Color coordinated. This is for the green board, not for these ones, sorry. But there are a couple patches there, so just keep it on hand in case something does happen. You also get a nice coiled leash. It swivels, so it doesn't get tangled up on your ankle, your calf, wherever you like to put it. Perfect length, doesn't drag in the water, really good quality leash. And then Blackfin also comes with 3 fins, so it's the tri-fin, and they're just the snap lock in, so very easy to snap in. snap out, get out on the water, and they do a good job performance level. It's not the US fin box, so if you do lose one, you'll have to find one on Amazon or from iRocker Blackfin. But the nice thing, a lot more companies are going to these snap lock fins, and they're not necessarily the highest performance fins, but they are the easiest fins. And from a performance level, when we dive deep into that, you'll see they actually still perform really well. But A+ for ease of use. Finally, you get Blackfin's carbon fiber shaft nylon blade paddles. You can see it's a 3-piece paddle, real easy to put together here. This just has this pin lock, snaps there. Then up here, you can see just these different little holes. You can set the height level from there all the way down here. And it's a nice lightweight paddle, right around 28 ounces, full carbon in the shaft, full carbon in the handle here, which is a step up from the iRocker. The iRocker, if you really start to crank it, you'll feel a little flex there. Not so with the Blackfin. We like how they did a full carbon upper and then taped around it to keep that nice and solid. The nylon blade is super lightweight, and it's also a little more narrow than some of the kit paddles, which for me, I prefer. I tend to prefer a smaller paddle, a smaller blade on my paddle, just so I can have a nice high frequent stroke rate, because that helps me just go faster. It's not quite as much, you know, on kind of my arms and shoulders and back. And for that reason, I really do like the Blackfin paddle, especially for a kit paddle. The fact that this comes included is a really nice paddle. You can definitely upgrade to, you know, a $300 plus full carbon fiber paddle, but you don't necessarily need to unless you're really getting into high performance stuff. So love the paddle, love what they've done there. And just in general, with the overall package that you get with the Blackfin, like I said, you get everything you need to get out on the water, and everything is a very quality accessory. Okay, so now we're going to go over the features of the Blackfin. And really the features, this is the XL model, but the X and the XL both have the same features. And as you can see, Blackfins really come loaded with all kinds of features that you can add tons of accessories to. So starting at the front, start with that nice handle up here, which is just really nice for unloading the board, docking it, pulling it out of the lake, etc. Really like that. Lots of D-rings on this board. So there's 20 D-rings total. There's one right on the backside here. And then in the front area, you've got the 6 D-ring bungee area. So you got nice bungees. They're good, strong bungees, storing coolers, clothes, water bottles, etc. I also really like, for the Blackfin, that they come with these side grab handles. I typically, it's my kids who use these. This is one of my favorite family boards. And so a kid can be up here lying on their stomach, grabbing on, or just, you know, sitting cross-legged and holding on. Really nice. If you don't like them, you can just kind of slide that back, unvelcro it, and take them off. Okay, so moving down now, in the middle of the board, you're gonna see this really cool EVA deck pad. In fact, I'm gonna step out so you can see kind of the whole design. Kind of has like a fish scale thing going on, which I really like the look of the Blackfin. But the EVA deck pad on the Blackfin, I do like it a lot. These grooves here are nice and deep. It's stamped with the Blackfin logo, which just looks kind of cool. And that the deck pad is both soft, but it also does provide good grip. These channels kind of channel the water off the board so you don't slip around. And it's just in general a really nice quality EVA deck pad. In the middle, you also have these 4 additional D-rings that they say kayak seat mounting point. So this is where you'll want to mount the kayak. You can also, you got 2 back here that you can mount it to. So in total, you've got the 4 up front, the 2 D-rings here on around that deck pad. So really you can attach almost anything to this board. You also have on the sides here these action mounts that they use for the fishing spear pull. So you can basically kind of jab that down and use it as an anchor if you're fishing in shallow water. Super cool. I also like how they have these off the deck pad. So it gives you nice area here to stand and not get in your way. And then moving back to the board, you have the Scotty mounts here. So if you're looking for a board that you can fish from, you can really load this up with their fishing rack and just do a ton of cool things with these Scotty mounts. And then behind the Scotty mounts, you have 2 more action mounts. So in total, that's just a lot of action mounts. To be honest, my opinion, I'd love to see Blackfin move these action mounts to the side here. So if you want to put like a fishing rod holder or a cup holder or something, it's not going to make it to where you can't reach them, but it does just clean up that deck pad just a little bit. That being said, as you can see, you have a lot of deck pad there that you can still move around on. And in the center of the pad, which is where you're standing most of the time, you're going to be totally fine. Rounding out the tail, you have another 6 D-rings here for this bungee area, right? Again, great for storing whatever you want. Another side handles for kids to grab onto, and another nice rear handle. So between the rear handle, the middle handle, the front handle, and even these grab handles, it's a really easy board to launch, to dock, to get out to the water, to take it back to your car or truck. And just in general, you can see the Blackfin really is loaded with features. All right, so let's jump right into the main question that everybody asks us every year. Model X versus Model XL. Which one is better? How do they perform? And which one is right for me? So looking at these two boards, they're very similar in construction quality and materials. They're pretty much the exact same with that. They're both made with the triple layer PVC that goes around that drop stitch core that gives the board the shape that it does and the durability and the rigidity. When we did the bend test on the Blackfin, it really did perform really well, partly because of the width, but also because both Blackfins have the carbon fiber rail. And there's a lot of debate in the industry on, does the carbon fiber rail help? Does it not help? We're still testing it, but from our initial bend test, it does look like it does add some rigidity to the board. So with those tests, what we do, we separate the boards 7 feet on 2 sawhorses, and we put 150 pounds of weight right in the center. So it's not a real life bend test, because if you put the boards out on the water, you're going to displace the weight across the board. You've got water essentially pushing up against it, but it's a really good test to see how strong the board is, how rigid it is. And it's one of the ways that we test the quality of the materials, and the Blackfin passed with flying colors. Both boards really well built, really nice solid feel. So what's the difference? Mainly the Blackfin Model X is a foot longer, or the XL, excuse me, it's 11.6. This one's 10.6. So you get a foot extra of board. It's also 1 inch thinner. So it's only 34 inches here in the middle versus 35 inches for the Model X. In the tail, the Model X actually is a little bit wider. It's 19 inches versus 18 inches for the XL. And from a weight capacity, because you have the extra volume in the Model XL, you get a little bit higher weight capacity. It's 485 pounds versus 450. Now, quick note on those weight capacities. You're not really gonna put 485 pounds on here and expect it to go like normal. You do lose performance as you get more weight. However, I've paddled with over 500 pounds on both of these boards, and you can still paddle. Yes, it is slow, but it will still hold you up. And they are two of the higher volume, higher weight capacity boards on the market today, and do a great job there. So going back to the differences, really the extra foot of length on the Model XL helps the XL perform better when it comes to speed, when it comes to tracking, and when it comes to stability. You have that higher volume, but you also have that longer board, that longer water line, which helps you just go faster in the water. Where the X shines is more on the maneuverability side of things. It's still a very stable board. They made the tail a little bit thicker, right? A little bit thicker through the middle, just a little bit shorter. And so if you're looking for something that you really want to move around a little bit more, like going down a river, the Model X is what we'd recommend. And really in the past, we've typically recommended the Model X over the XL. But as we've tested these boards for the last couple months, we've done a lot of testing with a lot of different people. We've really fallen in love with the Model XL. So really, unless you're someone who wants the maneuverability of the Model X, we'd recommend to go with the XL. That extra foot of board allows you to put more gear, makes it a little bit easier for carrying kids. The longer water line makes it faster. And so it's a really fun board, and it's becoming one of my favorite boards to take out. And if I had to buy just one single board, it would be the XL. Now, of course, I don't have to just buy one single board because I'm lucky, but this one I can take out touring on the lake. And we'll talk about that in the speed test. I can throw 2 of my kids on this. I can throw a cooler on this. I can do everything. I can still do that with the Model X, but the performance of the XL just edges it out slightly. All right, so diving into the performance side of things, the first thing that we do like to look at is stability. And from a stability standpoint, the Model X and the Model XL both really perform extremely well. Those high weight capacities, 485 pounds, 450 pounds, and the 34-inch width on the XL, which is what I'm riding right now, and the 35-inch on the Model X just really do make these boards very stable. So one thing that we like to look at when we get on a board is just really kind of rock it side to side to see how far you can go without kind of falling in. And as you can see here, like, it's a really stable board. I mean, you know, so for beginners, if you haven't been on a board before, just realize like you can go quite a ways without falling in. Just kind of relax your knees and kind of just, you know, let the board do what it's going to do. Really the difference between the X and the XL from a stability standpoint comes in the length of the board. They're really similar with stability, but we actually give the edge to the XL simply because you have the higher volume and more weight capacity and extra length. So it just edges out the X just a little bit there, but they're both really stable boards. If that's one of your main concerns, these boards definitely should be at the top of your list. Now, from a speed standpoint, this is an area that actually the XL specifically surprised us this year. You know, typically these bigger boards that are super wide, they're not necessarily going to be built for speed, but I was able to really to get some pretty impressive numbers out of the XL and the X. What we do for a speed test, it's basically like a 100-yard dash. We do about 1/10 of a mile from buoy to buoy and just go all out. We try to keep it on the same conditions. Like right now, you can see it's a little bit windy. If we compared a windy day versus a perfectly flat day, it wouldn't really work. We took out all the big boards that we have, compared them side by side, same conditions, and the XL actually won out on that. It's one of the reasons why we're actually recommending the XL a little bit more than the X this year, because of its performance and speed. And the main reason for that, as I've kind of already discussed, is the length. You just have extra length in the water, increases that water line, and just helps you go a little bit faster. It's also 1 inch narrower, so you have a little bit easier job keeping that paddle vertical, which helps with tracking. We'll get into that. But it just overall just helps the speed, and it does beat out the Model X just by a little bit on the speed side of things. The other thing, as you know, for a casual recreational paddler, it's the board being 29 pounds, it's a little bit heavy, but you really don't feel that in the water. It feels really nice and just gets up and goes nice and quickly. The X, I would say, gets up a little faster off the starting line because it's 2 pounds lighter, but the XL carries that weight just a little bit more on the glide side of things. So both boards really good, going to perform really well for that casual recreational paddler. And then as you start to really want to get out and maybe do a little more touring, you know, obviously the Model V is going to be the fastest board, but you can still make the XL do really well. One of the things that I like to do, and let's see if I can kind of show you here, is when I'm paddling the XL, I can kind of shift my weight just a little bit over to the side and create an edge and paddle. What that does is, by creating that edge, it lifts the board up, it reduces the friction and the drag on the board, and just really helps you just go faster. And so the other thing is I can scoot my knees in, right, as I paddle, and it gives me a little bit more flexibility and makes it easier to keep my paddle vertical because I'm more close to the edge. So in general, that really makes this board a really fun board. And because of the stability that you have, it's not a problem at all to shift your weight from side to side. So again, speed-wise, both boards, really happy with them, especially for how stable and big they are, which make them just a great all-around board. All right, from a tracking standpoint between the X and the XL, and this isn't necessarily like a negative on the X. As we get into maneuverability, we'll talk about it. But the XL does track a little better. So if you're looking for an all-around that leans a little bit more to the touring side of things and is going to go a little straighter, the XL, because it's longer, is going to track a little better. They both have that tri-fin setup and track really well. And ultimately, when we talk about tracking, we kind of like to say that 80 or 90% of tracking is actually the person paddling. How's their technique when they're catching the water? Are they keeping that paddle vertical? And what is their technique doing? The other 10% to 20% is the board. And on that level, they're both really good, but the edge does go to the Model XL. Okay, so now on to maneuverability. And you'll notice, kind of switched boards up on you. The reason for that is because the Model X does edge out the XL a little bit when it comes to maneuverability. It's a foot shorter, and just by definition, a shorter board is going to be easier to maneuver. You know, when you're just trying to casually turn, you can see it's pretty easy. And for a board that's 35 inches wide, it is really nice and maneuverable. Where that helps is if you are someone who wants that sporty feel of a board, or if you're going down a river and need to dodge like some rocks or boulders or some trees or something like that, the X is going to perform a little better there. Now, that's not saying the XL doesn't move well. It does, just not quite as good as this because of the length of that board. The other area of maneuverability that we like to look at is as you become more advanced and you want to kind of start playing around on the board a little bit more, we like to see how the board does with step back or buoy turns. You'll see a buoy turn in like SUP races where they go from one buoy to the other. They've got to turn around that buoy as fast as they can on a dime and get back, and that's kind of how the race is set up. And it's just nice to kind of see how the boards perform on that. So the X does really well. That extra inch that you have on the tail versus the XL makes that just a little bit easier to step back. But then it also, because the length is shorter, you spin around a little bit faster. As you can see, how easy that was. And for reference, I mean, yeah, I do paddleboard a lot, but I actually tore my Achilles just 6 months ago. And so my stability has actually suffered quite a bit. Very easy to do that. So if you're a beginner looking to kind of practice that, that's one of the fun things about these boards. Really easy to step back, move around on because of that stability, and really try to, you know, increase your maneuverability there. So kind of bottom line, you can tell we really love the Blackfin Model XL and the X. That's why we've rated them as our top all-around boards for this year. We have a slight preference for the XL just because it does perform a little bit more on our speed test, our stability test. It just gives you a little more length to put all the gear. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of gear. I've got the cool kayak seat. I love this little foam seat that they add to the kayak because I'm not very flexible, and usually kayak seats are really uncomfortable for me, but I love this one. Got the cup holder with my mate, the sand spear mount, the speaker up front. I mean, you really can kind of load this board up however you want to and take it wherever you want to go. Both of them do fantastic. They're great family boards, they're great individual boards, and just all around are some of our top boards for this year. And again, if you're asking whether or not the X or XL is right for you, it really just comes down to use case. So we're gonna have both of them there in our top spot, and you just decide which one you need. If you're looking for something more sporty that can maneuver a little bit better, go with the X. If you want to carry a lot more gear, kids, and are more kind of leaning towards the speed touring side of things, then go with the XL. Either way, you're going to be happy with either of these boards. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions between the X and the XL, and you know, specific to you, leave those questions in the comments below. We also have links to both in-depth reviews with photos and all kinds of details that'll help you in your decision. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to have a lot of tips, a lot more reviews coming out, and I hope that was helpful.